A tiny mistake with a pistol doesn't just mess up the gun. It can blow the barrel, send rounds off target, throw metal fragments, and end up causing serious injury or even death. The scary thing is, all those little slip-ups you think are harmless, like dry firing the wrong way, using cheap gear, or brushing off a weird pop sound, they pile up, and they always seem to explode right at the moment you need your gun most. In short, this isn't just about a gun breaking, it's about safety risks and even legal consequences. Let's start with mistake number 1. Mistake number 1, ignoring malfunctions and powering through. This is one of the most dangerous mistakes and also one I see every day at the range. When the gun signals something's off, an odd sound, a single stovepipe, or a trigger that feels soft, a lot of people pick the easiest option. Whatever, rack the slide, reload, keep shooting. They assume it's just a minor hiccup, or they're confident the gun will keep running, so they save time and press on. The problem is, every time you do that without finding the real cause, you're forcing critical parts to work beyond their design limits, and damage accumulates until you finally get a serious failure. The mechanics aren't complicated. A stovepipe or a failure to extract isn't just a stuck case. Every time you slam the slide, the extractor has to work harder. The extractor hook can wear or deform. The ejector gets hit at the wrong time. The feed ramp takes abnormal forces as a misaligned bullet nose scrapes. The recoil spring can lose tension when the slide is repeatedly stressed in the wrong way. A tiny issue like dirt in the chamber or a slightly deformed case can trigger a chain. Extractor wears, failure to extract, shooter pulls the slide harder, another part gets overloaded. Eventually a component breaks. The scariest result is a squib, a round that doesn't exit the barrel because of underpowered powder, a bad case, or an obstruction. You hear a weak pop instead of a normal bang. If you don't stop and you shoot again, the next round can slam into the lodged one, pressure spikes, and the barrel can crack or burst, endangering the shooter and everyone nearby. Why do people do this? There are psychological and practical drivers. 1, social pressure at the range. Everyone wants to finish their turn and nobody wants to ruin the session. 2, lack of knowledge. Many folks can't recognize the signs of a squib or don't know how to safely check the chamber. 3, plain laziness or overconfidence, thinking Glocks run dirty so everything's fine. And 4, saving time or money. Stopping to inspect or sending the gun to a gunsmith costs time and money. Put those together and a small warning becomes a preventable disaster. A concrete example makes it clear. In a fast fire competition, a shooter heard the first shot sound off, quieter, and wrong. But because he was trying to win, he just racked the slide, reloaded, and kept shooting. After a couple more cycles like that, the pistol started short stroking, and finally the barrel was damaged by a misfire under abnormal pressure. The gun had to be shipped to a gunsmith. Repair costs were high, and the shooter was disqualified. In another case, a new shooter mistook a weak pop for a squib round and fired again, which caused a catastrophic failure. Fortunately, no one was badly hurt, but the barrel was ruined, repair bills were high, and the owner lost trust in his equipment. So, what should you actually do? When you notice anything odd, stop immediately. Keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, remove the magazine, lock the slide open, and inspect the chamber with your eyes and a bore rod if necessary. Do not try to test it by shooting again. Don't hope it will clear itself. If you suspect an obstruction or a squib, weak sound, dramatically reduced recoil, remove the magazine, keep the muzzle safe, and check the barrel with a proper rod before loading another round. If you aren't confident, get your instructor or a qualified gunsmith to look. Preventive measures, keeping the gun clean, using quality ammunition, and learning to recognize abnormal signs drastically reduce the chance of being forced into a dangerous malfunction. In short, ignoring a small fault today can turn your favorite pistol into an expensive paperweight tomorrow. Stop, listen, inspect. That's not just maintenance, it's how you protect both your equipment and your own safety. Mistake number 2, homebrew modifications and DIY tinkering. If you think you can upgrade your pistol by hand and make it run smooth as a piano, sit down. This story repeats way more than you think. Homebrew modifications, DIY tinkering. That means taking it apart, Grinding, cutting, polishing contact surfaces with a Dremel or sandpaper at home sounds appealing and cheap, but it often ends with an unreliable gun, avoided safety certification, or worse, an accidental discharge risk. Imagine you want a smoother trigger pull. You look at the sear and think, a little filing here and it'll be perfect. The problem is the sear and its contact angles are designed to precise tolerances to ensure safe engagement between the trigger, the sear, and the safety systems. Changing a small angle by filing can reduce engagement enough that the trigger can release under light impact, or create a slam fire when the striker is no longer held correctly. People polish the striker, remove metal until it's buttery smooth. Lots of folks do that. And after a few hundred rounds, the safety system no longer holds the striker in the right place. The result can be an unexpected misfire or an accidental discharge. Another dangerous DIY move is cutting or milling the slide or the frame to fit an optic, or using screws that are too long to mount a red dot. I've seen screws that penetrate so deeply into the slide they interfere with the firing pin channel. It might not fail immediately, but under recoil the screw can compress or obstruct the striker path, causing a seize or, even worse, a dangerous malfunction. You might think, I'll just drill a little, but a loose hole, ruined coating, or altered material hardness all add up, and the pistol will start showing strange symptoms. Why do people do this? There are very human reasons. Excessive confidence. I'm handy with tools, I can do this. Lots of online videos make upgrading look as simple as swapping a car part. Saving money, avoiding a gunsmith's bill can seem attractive. Hunting performance gains, wanting a lighter trigger, a shorter reset, or better looks to post on social media. And arrogance, believing the manufacturer made it too safe and you know better. These reasons plus easy access to Dremels, polishing kits, and 10-minute tutorial clips lure non-experts in. The disaster usually doesn't show up right away. It shows up at the worst possible time, in a match, after a drop onto concrete, or after a few hundred rounds when metal has worn enough that safety features fail. A clear real-world example. A friend decided to upgrade his striker-fired pistol by polishing the striker and lightly filing the sear to feel a lighter trigger. At first the gun was smooth and he loved it. After a few months of dry fire practice and some live shooting, one day he set the gun down and a small bump released the trigger. The gun fired though he hadn't pulled the trigger. Luckily nobody was badly hurt, but the pistol was confiscated for a safety inspection, he lost his carry authorization, and most importantly, he almost caused a catastrophe. Another case, a customer brought a gun that was intermittently jamming under heavy recoil. Inspection revealed the red dot plate screw was too long and had intruded into the firing pin channel, and corrosion had later seized the striker after a few thousand rounds. An expensive and dangerous repair. So, what should you do? The rule is simple, but requires discipline. Don't risk safety parts with home tools. If you don't understand cutting geometry, contact angles, and tolerances, don't touch it. Want upgrades? Use OEM parts or reputable aftermarket parts from known manufacturers. Read technical documents. Ask a certified gunsmith. If you're considering a trigger job or safety changes, take it to a pro. They have fixtures, jigs, and measurement tools to preserve safety. When mounting optics, use manufacturer plates and screws of the exact length specified, and run a function test of the striker firing pin after installation. Bottom line, DIY can be fun, but with firearms the risk is too high. Spend money on a trustworthy gunsmith instead of saving a few dollars and risking safety and reliability. If you want your pistol to feel slick, get it serviced professionally. Don't turn your firearm into a backyard experiment. Mistake number 3, skipping regular inspections and not replacing worn parts. This is one of the quiet but most dangerous mistakes I see at every level. Failures don't always come suddenly. A lot of breakdowns are the result of tolerating wear, procrastinating, and hoping it'll keep running, while small parts slowly lose their tolerances and strength. The recoil spring, magazine spring, extractor hook, feed lips, even pins and roll pins that look cheap are all crucial to the feed-fire extract cycle. When one part wears, load shifts to others, and a chain of failures forms until some component snaps at the worst possible moment. The failure mode usually starts quietly. A recoil spring gets soft after thousands of compression cycles, and the slide no longer travels far enough to eject a case and fully chamber the next round. Shooters see the occasional stovepipe and dismiss it as range quirks, blame the ammo, or adjust their grip. In reality, the extractor is stretched and its hook has worn, so it can't hold the case properly, and the ejector has to hit harder to force a stuck case out. Magazine springs lose tension after being left loaded. Followers stop pushing consistently, so the slide can outpace the magazine and cause misfeeds. These small, slow failures don't necessarily trigger an immediate accident, but they make the gun unreliable and encourage quick fixes at the range that eventually lead to permanent damage. Why do people make this mistake? A lot of it is economics and human nature. They think a spring is only $10 or $20, why replace it? Or, it still runs, I'll wait until it breaks. Many don't track round count. Manufacturers often recommend replacement intervals by round count or service cycles, but few people actually keep track. Add the common attitude that Glocks run dirty, and you get lots of shooters skipping checks. There's also simple laziness after a session. Toss the gun in a bag and forget to inspect the magazine or recoil spring. Finally, replacing a spring or magazine costs time and money. So, people delay and keep shooting until a serious failure happens. Real-world examples are common and familiar. An amateur competitor carried 2 Glocks for practice and ignored the recommendation to replace the recoil spring after roughly 3,000 to 5,000 rounds, running a softened spring for months. In an internal match, his pistol began to short stroke mid-stage. The extractor bent from being pulled too far, and one of his magazines showed follower damage from being left loaded. He had to drop out, send the gun to a smith, and missed his chance to compete. Another hunter kept magazines loaded in a box for months waiting for the season. When hunting season came, a string of misfeeds occurred because the springs had lost their tension, and he missed important shots. Those situations are not only frustrating but affect safety and performance when it matters. Prevention is better than repair. A simple enforced inspection schedule will save you a lot of headaches. Log your round count. Set reminders to replace the recoil spring according to the manufacturer's recommendation or your actual usage. Rotate magazines rather than leaving them fully loaded constantly, and visually check the extractor, feed lips, and barrel crown before every trip out. Replacing a $10 or $20 spring before a match can save you from hundreds of dollars in repair bills and lost opportunities. When in doubt, inspect by eye and touch, or take the firearm to an experienced gunsmith for advice. Remember, spotting a small issue today is an opportunity to fix it before it becomes a big problem tomorrow. Replacing worn parts isn't complicated or expensive, but it requires discipline and knowledge. A well-maintained pistol runs smoother, is more reliable, and is safer for you and those around you. Don't trade safety and reliability for a few dollars saved. Mistake number 4. Dry firing repeatedly without using snap caps. Dry fire done right is an invaluable training tool. It builds trigger finger discipline, timing, and reflexes without wasting ammunition. But there's a thin line between smart practice and slowly wrecking the internals. Dry firing means pressing the trigger when there's no round in the chamber. If you do that over and over without protective devices like snap caps, dummy rounds made of plastic or rubber, the impact of the firing pin or striker goes straight into the metal of the chamber or the striker face. Over time, that causes mushrooming, the firing pin nose flattening, cracks, wear on the striker face or chamber, and it can even change the striker's travel, which shows up as misfires, inconsistent primer strikes, or a broken firing pin. Important distinction: rimfire and centerfire guns react differently to dry fire. With rimfire, like .22 long rifle ammunition, the firing pin is designed to strike the rim of the cartridge. That means dry firing a rimfire without snap caps actually impacts the chamber metal directly and causes damage much faster. Many beginners don't know this, and dry fire a .22 LR without protection. And the chamber face chips after just a few sessions. In centerfire guns, the striker still hits hard, and after thousands of unprotected dry fires, the firing pin can mushroom or deform. This often presents as sudden failures at the range when the gun won't ignite live ammo, even though dry fire felt fine before. Why do people still make this mistake? Human reasons you'll recognize. First, saving ammo. Shooters want to practice a lot without paying for rounds. Second, lack of information. They don't know dry firing is harmful without snap caps, or they assume modern guns can handle it. Third, laziness or lack of preparation. Snap caps are cheap and easy to buy, but many forget them or think they're non-essential. Fourth, time pressure. Short practice windows push people to dry fire lots of times instead of using protected reps. Real-world examples are easy to find. A young shooter in a club dry fired hundreds of times each week to train reset and trigger control without snap caps. After a few months, he couldn't ignite primers with live rounds. The firing pin had mushroomed and lost its proper shape. The pistol had to have the firing pin replaced, a repair far more costly than a few dollars worth of snap caps. Another example, an instructor encouraging lots of dry fire to save ammo. Several students dry fired rimfire pistols without snap caps and damaged the chamber faces, forcing part replacements. Safety consequences. Beyond repair bills, improper dry fire destroys confidence in the firearm at the moment you need it most. In defensive situations, competition, or even casual range work, instead of reliable ignition, you face misfires or broken parts. So, how do you do it right? Practical rules. 1. Always use snap caps for every dry fire session. Choose snap caps made of durable material and sized to your cartridge. They should cushion the striker impact. Metal or polymer snap caps are fine as long as they fit. 2. For rimfire like .22 LR, never dry fire without snap caps. Damage accumulates quickly. 3. Make dry fire deliberate and limited. Aim for 50 to 100 repetitions with snap caps in focused practice rather than thousands of mindless presses. Train slowly and intentionally, then verify with a few live rounds. 4. Inspect the firing pin and striker periodically. Look for mushrooming, cracks, or uneven wear. If you suspect damage, replace the part or have a gunsmith check it. 5. Practice drills that don't rely on endless dry fire. Combine dry fire with presentation, sight alignment, and trigger press drills so you don't need to press an empty trigger thousands of times. 6. Keep snap caps in your range bag and make them part of your mandatory routine before any dry fire session. Conclusion: dry fire isn't bad. It's a powerful training method, but do it correctly. Protect the internals with snap caps, treat rimfire differently, inspect parts regularly, and don't use dry fire as a way to save without taking precautions. A few dollars spent on snap caps can preserve your firing pin's life, keep your pistol reliable at the range, and save you from an unexpected repair bill. Mistake number 5, limp wristing. Holding the pistol loosely and messing up the cycle, limp wristing. A loose grip and a soft wrist. Sounds like a simple technique error, but its effect on a semi-automatic pistol can be bigger than you think. The issue isn't that the gun is bad or broken, it's that the entire feed-fire eject cycle relies on a basic principle. The frame has to stay rigid as the anchor, while the slide cycles independently using recoil spring energy. If you hold the frame too loosely, the whole gun moves with the slide instead of giving it a solid base, so the slide doesn't gain enough momentum to travel its full stroke. The real-world result? Short stroking, failures to eject, stovepipes, misfeeds, and accelerated wear from uneven impacts. Why does this happen? Several reasons: technical, physical, and psychological. First, poor technique. Beginners often hear, "hold it comfortably," or aren't taught a proper two-hand grip. They loosen their hold to reduce perceived recoil, not realizing they're removing the needed anchor. Second, hand size versus gun size. Shooters with smaller hands using full-size pistols, especially light polymer frames, are more prone to limp wristing because they can't get a full, firm grip. Third, fear of recoil or pain. Some people intentionally relax their grip to soften the feel of recoil, especially with powerful pistols, or when they're new. The result is the entire gun moves backward instead of letting the slide cycle over a solid frame. Fourth, bad habits copied from others. You see someone else grip that way and think it works, but the problem shows up after a few shots. Fifth, equipment choice. Light polymer pistols give less inertial resistance than heavy steel frames, so a weak grip shows up faster. Real-world examples are common. In a basic class I once taught, several female shooters using compact polymer pistols complained their guns jammed after the second round, often stovepiping. Watching closely, I saw their wrists bending to ride the recoil. Once we adjusted their stance, locking wrists forward, pressing both palms into the grip, thumbs aligned, elbows slightly forward, stovepipes nearly disappeared. Another case, a large-handed shooter using a small carry pistol thought his jams were due to the gun's size, but the real fix was swapping in a larger backstrap and practicing a firmer grip, which stabilized the cycle immediately. The bigger problem is limp wristing makes people misdiagnose the gun as faulty. They start disassembling, oiling, or even paying for repairs when the issue is just technique. On the other hand, if limp wristing continues, it increases wear on the extractor and ejector, accelerates fatigue, and can cause misalignment between slide and frame over time. So, how do you fix it? A few clear steps. 1. Check your stance and grip. Both hands locked, strong hand deep on the grip, support hand pressing firmly, thumbs aligned, wrists straight, not bending back. 2. Lock the wrists. Imagine bracing a steel bar between your hands. Push your elbows slightly forward to create forward pressure. 3. Adjust the grip size. Use grip tape, rubber sleeves, or swap back straps so the grip fills your hand better. 4. Train drills. Start with slow, controlled pairs, practicing grip consistency, then move to live fire once your muscle memory is built. 5. Ask for a coach's eye. An experienced instructor can catch small errors you don't notice yourself. 6. Match gun to shooter. If nothing works, consider a model that better suits your hand size and recoil tolerance. Conclusion: limp wristing isn't an equipment flaw, it's a technique issue. Fixing your grip, stance, and consistency turns a frustrating, unreliable pistol into a tool you can trust. Time invested in grip training will save money on repairs, improve accuracy, and most importantly, keep you safe and confident. Mistake number 6, riding the slide, using your hand to control the slide instead of letting the spring do its job. There's a habit that feels careful, but actually messes up the pistol's mechanics. Lots of shooters, wanting to be gentle, put their hand on the slide when releasing it so the slide closes slowly instead of letting the recoil spring drive it forward. That's called riding the slide. The intention is usually good: reduce noise, avoid hard impact, or be gentle with the gun. But the outcome can be nasty. Misfeeds, the gun not going fully into battery, light primer strikes, slides not locking completely, even feed ramp damage or crushed cartridges from incorrect chambering. Here's the mechanical truth. When you pull the slide all the way back and let go, the recoil spring stores just the right energy to slam the slide forward at the velocity needed to strip around from the magazine and feed it up the ramp into the chamber fully in battery. If you try to help or slow it with your hand, you kill that velocity and momentum. The result? The cartridge doesn't strip cleanly from the feed lips, or it noses into the feed ramp at the wrong angle, causing a nosedive or even a double feed. Worse, if the slide doesn't go fully into battery and you still pull the trigger, you might get a light primer strike, or, in the worst case, an out-of-battery discharge, a dangerous event that can damage the gun and injure you. Even more concerning, once you form this habit, you'll likely repeat it under stress when you need the gun most, and that's the last time you want to risk a malfunction. So, why do people do it? Common reasons. First, the quiet and polite mindset. New shooters don't like the loud snap of a slide closing, so they try to tame it. Second, fear of wear. Some think slamming the slide shut wears down finish or parts. In reality, the gun is engineered to take that force. Third, lack of understanding. They don't know momentum is required for proper chambering. Fourth, bad instruction. Some are even taught to ease the slide for safety, and they pass it on. Fifth, stress and nerves. Under pressure, humans want to feel in control, and so they hold on to the slide, ironically causing the problem. Real-world cases are plenty. In a personal defense class, one student always held the slide, when loading because she didn't want to draw attention with noise. At first it seemed fine. But during speed drills she had repeated misfeeds. The slide simply wasn't closing fully. Reviewing video in slow motion showed her hand was on the slide every single time. Once she learned to rack the slide hard and release, the malfunctions vanished. Another example. A competitor in a match tried to soft close the slide to be quieter indoors, but he got multiple light strikes and lost points, all because of riding the slide. The long-term risks, not just temporary jams, but uneven wear on the feed ramp and magazine lips from repeated misfeeds. Over time, this stresses the extractor and ejector too. Safety-wise, an out-of-battery discharge can blow a case apart when the barrel isn't locked, dangerous for both shooter and bystanders. The fix is simple, but must become habit. 1. Always rack the slide fully back and release. Let the spring work. 2. Accept the noise. The pistol is designed to handle it. If you need quiet, change your training environment, not the technique. 3. Record yourself. Many shooters don't realize their hand lingers on the slide until they see it. 4. Practice reload drills. Train to pull and release fast, building muscle memory. Use snap caps for dry practice. 5. Ask for coaching. An instructor can give you small adjustments to break the habit. 6. Function test afterward. Once you've fixed the habit, cycle the gun with live rounds and confirm it chambers reliably. In short, trying to help the slide is actually harming the process. Respect the design, pull back, and let it go. That simple correct motion ensures reliable feeding, avoids dangerous malfunctions, and keeps the pistol durable. Train yourself to do it right every time, and you'll eliminate one of the most preventable reliability issues. Mistake number 7. Using cheap, damaged, or dirty magazines. The hidden culprit behind feeding failures. If we had to name the top offenders for semi-automatic pistol malfunctions, the magazine would always land in the top 3. A mag looks simple, just a tube of metal or polymer, a spring, and a follower. But the precision of the feed lips, the spring tension, the straightness of the body, and the quality of the follower all decide whether each round gets lifted cleanly and presented at the right angle for the slide to strip. A bad magazine, bent, cracked, dirty, or with a weak spring, lets the slide outrun it, causing misfeeds, double feeds, nose dives, stovepipes, a whole mess of issues shooters often blame on the pistol. Mechanically, the feed lips are the most critical. They hold the cartridge case and set its angle as the slide comes forward. If they crack, wear, or bend, the bullet nose can hit the feed ramp at the wrong angle, nosedive, or even slip free, causing a double feed. A weak spring fails to push the follower up fast enough. The slide gets ahead and fails to strip the next round, leading to a failure to feed. A dirty or broken follower binds inside the mag, stopping movement altogether. A dented mag body throws rounds out of line and creates jams. And cheap knockoff mags often use soft metals, sloppy tolerances, and poor heat treatment. They might look the same outside, but inside, they're a recipe for disaster. Why do people keep using bad mags? Very ordinary reasons. 1. Saving money. Factory mags are pricey, so people grab bargain ones online. At first they seem fine, so users assume they're good. 2. Hard to diagnose. Mag-related failures look just like ammo or gun issues. 3. Habit. Buying a cheap batch and never checking them. 4. Poor maintenance. Mags get sandy, rusty, or oily, and owners don't notice. 5. The run it till it dies mindset. Treating mags like disposable parts until they break outright. Examples are everywhere. One shooter bought 4 off-brand mags for his compact Beretta because they were cheap. For a few months they worked, but in a night match he had constant double feeds once the mags got near empty. The feed lips had bent and the springs rattled. Another hunter stored loaded mags for months in a damp kit. When hunting season came, corrosion and gunk locked the followers, and reloads jammed right when he needed them. In defense situations, that's a nightmare. The consequences aren't just frustration. In self-defense, a failed mag means you can't reload quickly, leaving you vulnerable. In competition, bad mags cost you points, time, and confidence. Long-term, repeated misfeeds stress the extractor, feed ramp, even the barrel chamber. So, how do you avoid this? A few practical steps. 1. Buy quality mags. Stick to factory or reputable brands. If aftermarket, pick ones with solid reviews and avoid suspiciously cheap deals. 2. Inspect feed lips closely. Look for cracks, bends, or wear. Press the follower. The lips should hold the round firmly and evenly. 3. Replace springs regularly. Springs lose strength if left loaded for months. Rotate mags and replace springs as recommended. 4. Keep mags clean. Disassemble if possible, brush out dirt, wipe, dry, and add a tiny bit of anti-rust oil if they're metal. For polymer, avoid strong solvents. 5. Don't trust knockoffs. The few dollars saved aren't worth risking reliability. 6. Test your mags. Cycle them at the range, note which ones cause issues, and retire them before they fail under pressure. 7. Always have spares. Carry tested mags in your range bag so you can swap instead of fiddling with a bad one in the field. 8. Lube sparingly. Oil inside attracts grime. Keep mags mostly dry and clean. One last tip. Bent feed lips can sometimes be bent back, but if the material is too soft, the fix won't last. Replacing with a fresh mag is the only safe bet. And when troubleshooting, always suspect the magazine first before blaming the gun. Bottom line, magazines aren't disposable junk. They're the heart of reliable feeding. Invest in good ones, maintain them, and test them. A few minutes of care will keep your pistol running smooth, protect your safety, and save you from malfunctions at the worst time. Don't let a cheap little box of metal ruin your range day, your match, or your defensive shot. Mistake number 8, botching the breakdown or reassembly, taking it apart and putting it back together. Wrong field stripping for cleaning or swapping parts is necessary. But if you rush it, use the wrong tools, follow a half-baked video online, or just force things together, you can turn a perfectly good pistol into a useless hunk of metal. Botching the breakdown isn't just about a loose screw. I've seen people install a small spring backwards, skip a safety pin, or compress a recoil assembly the wrong way. And the result is lost safety function, short stroking, a striker that won't reset, or in some cases a pistol that can't be fired safely at all. The problem comes from complexity. A pistol might look simple on the outside, but inside there are lots of small springs, pins, levers, trigger parts, sear components, and striker bits. Each has a specific place and orientation. Put a slide stop spring in backwards and the slide stop won't hold. Install the extractor spring the wrong way and it won't grip cases. Common mistakes include flipping the striker safety pin, misplacing the trigger bar spring, bending pins with the wrong pliers, or losing a tiny spring and thinking, that's not important, before reassembling. All of these lead straight to risk. Why do people make this mistake? Plenty of reasons. First, bad tutorials. Unclear videos shot at the wrong angle, often by people who aren't qualified. Second, using the wrong tools, pliers, oversized screwdrivers, or brute force bend small parts out of shape. Third, skipping the manual. Many owners don't read it, or the instructions aren't clear, so they guess. Fourth, the good enough mindset, losing a spring or pin and thinking the gun will still run fine. Fifth, rushing or embarrassment, trying to fix something at the range quickly and slapping it back together wrong. Real examples: I once saw a new owner swap a recoil spring assembly after watching YouTube. He used pliers, flipped the end cap, and reinstalled it backwards. At first, the slide just short-stroked, then after a few rounds, a slide pin snapped because of the misaligned pressure. Another case: a customer cleaned his pistol and lost the trigger bar spring, but reassembled anyway. That left the striker safety disabled, a huge risk of accidental discharge. I've also seen people gouge a plastic striker housing with the wrong screwdriver, causing rattling and misalignment until the whole housing had to be replaced. The consequences: safety systems don't work, triggers become unreliable, strikers don't reset, slide stops fail, extractors don't eject, feeding goes off, or the gun simply won't fire. The biggest danger is compromised safeties, which can cause slam fires or accidental discharges. And fixing these mistakes costs time, money, and often a trip to the gunsmith. So, How do you avoid this? A few solid habits. 1. Always read the manual first. Manufacturers provide diagrams and step-by-step instructions. If you need more, download the official PDF. 2. Prepare proper tools, punches, roll pin holders, fitted screwdrivers, a bench block, and trays to keep parts organized. Don't force things with pliers or random tools. 3. Stay systematic. Lay parts out in order on a mat. Take photos as you disassemble, and reverse the order when reassembling. 4. Never force a part. If something doesn't slide in easily, stop and check orientation. 5. Note small springs. Record or mark their position and direction before removal. 6. Don't replace lost parts with close enough hardware. Order proper replacements. 7. If you're unsure, go to a gunsmith, especially with safeties, trigger groups, sears, or strikers. 8. After reassembly, always run a function check. Test the safeties, cycle the slide, dry fire safely with snap caps, check trigger reset, and only then live fire a few rounds. One helpful tip: keep a checklist for your specific model. Order of parts, spring directions, and pin counts. It saves huge headaches. In conclusion, correct disassembly and reassembly is part of responsible maintenance. Don't let pride or rushing cause a small mistake that cripples your gun. Respect the schematics, use the right tools, go slow, and function check after. That's how you keep reliability and safety intact. Mistake number 9, over-cleaning or using the wrong tools and chemicals. When cleaning becomes destructive. Cleaning is necessary, but there's a thin line between cleaning correctly and scrubbing something until it's ruined. I've seen more than a few pistols fall victim to enthusiastic owners who want them spotless. They reach for a wire brush, sandpaper, or industrial-strength solvents and end up wearing away tolerances, stripping protective coatings, deforming surfaces, or even softening polymers. The problem isn't just the look. When machine surfaces are ground down, slide and frame develop more play than designed. Contact points change, localized wear increases, and long-term reliability and accuracy suffer. The damage process is straightforward. Many firearm surfaces are finely machined, polished, and often coated. Nitride, parkerizing, Cerakote, or polymer finishes. Scrubbing a steel brush over aluminum or steel removes the finish and erodes the underlying metal. A feed ramp that was precision angled becomes rough if you abrade it. And then cartridges don't feed smoothly into the chamber. Nosedives and misfeeds rise. Polymer parts exposed to harsh solvents like carburetor cleaner or acetone can swell, crack, or become brittle. That can warp internal rails and make the slide bind or short stroke. Even components like springs and small pins can be bent or damaged by improper tools. Why do people do this? A few common reasons. Overzealous good intentions. Everyone wants their gun to look and feel brand new after a range day, and the internet is full of aggressive cleaning hacks. Belief that stronger chemicals are better. People assume a harsh solvent will remove any grime quickly. Lack of material knowledge. They don't know polymers, and metals react differently to solvents. Using the wrong tools, swapping a nylon brush for a steel one because it scrubs better. Treating guns like household items, using the same cleaners you'd use on a bike or car and not realizing the tolerances are far tighter. A couple of real examples I still cringe about. One owner tried to refinish a striker-fired pistol by stripping the finish with a heavy-duty paint remover and then scouring with a steel brush. The polymer frame's internal rails were slightly altered, the slide finish thinned, and after a few hundred rounds, the slide began to bind. Short stroking and frequent misfeeds followed. Repair meant replacing the frame housing and a refinishing job that cost far more than a proper service would have. Another instructor used an automotive solvent to clean barrels and then, to compensate, smeared engine oil over the internals. That oil collected carbon and formed a sticky sludge in the rails and extractor area, causing jams and requiring a full teardown and proper cleaning. Areas especially at risk. Feed ramp and barrel throat. Over-polishing changes the geometry and causes feeding issues. Rails and contact surfaces. Abrasive cleaning increases play between slide and frame. Coated finishes, Cerakote, nitride. Parkerizing can be ruined by harsh chemicals. Polymer frames, solvents can soften or crazes the surface, warping rails. Small springs and thin parts, damaged by improper prying or force. So, how do you clean properly? Practical rules. 1. Use firearm-specific products. Buy gun cleaners, CLP, and bore solvents made for firearms. Avoid carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, paint strippers, or acetone on finishes and polymer. 2. Use nylon brushes and soft cloths. Nylon brushes, cotton swabs, and microfiber cloths are your friends. Brass brushes are okay for some metal work, but skip steel bristles. 3. Don't abrade machine surfaces. Avoid sanding or scraping feed ramps and contact faces. If a feed ramp truly needs work, let a qualified gunsmith handle it. 4. Control pressure and dwell time. Apply solvent only as long as the instructions recommend, then wipe. Don't soak parts forever. 5. Protect polymer. Don't expose polymer frames to harsh solvents for long. Rinse and dry promptly if they do contact something aggressive. 6. Use the correct-the-bore procedure. Run patches and a proper bore solvent through the barrel rather than blasting it with industrial chemicals. 7. Apply lubrication sparingly after cleaning. Excess oil attracts carbon and grime. A light film on rails, barrel hood, and locking surfaces is enough. 8. If you suspect damage from a bad solvent or tool, stop. Clean off the product, inspect, and take the gun to a shop if you see deformation, play, or unusual wear. 9. Read the manual. Manufacturers often list what chemicals are safe for their finishes and polymers. Follow it. A few handy tips. Test any solvent on an inconspicuous spot before using it widely. Use a bench mat and lay out parts so you don't drop them on hard surfaces. Keep a dedicated set of brushes for gun cleaning. Don't reuse car brushes. Replace patches and cloths when they get saturated. Dirty rags just smear grime. For light rust inside a bore, use a bronze bore brush and bore solvent, then chase with clean patches. Severe corrosion needs a professional. Conclusion: enthusiasm for cleaning can't replace technical knowledge. Proper cleaning makes a pistol last and perform. Improper cleaning removes tolerances, destroys finishes, and shortens service life. Before any deep clean, ask yourself, is this solvent safe for polymer or finish? Do I have the right tools? If you're unsure, find a gunsmith or use a professional service. A bit of restraint and the right products will save you hours, money, and a lot of regret. Mistake number 10. Letting your gun get filthy. Running it dirty seems harmless, but the consequences are serious. A lot of people shrug and say, a gun can run dirty, and use that as an excuse for laziness. The truth is, leaving a pistol dirty for a long time. Whether you skip cleaning after a range session or store it in a damp box, creates a cascade of problems from lost reliability to corrosion, throat wear, jammed moving parts, and even permanent damage. This isn't a micro issue. Carbon, powder fouling, excess oil, grit, tiny metal particles, and humidity all team up to wreck the mechanics. How the damage starts is simple chemistry and physics. Carbon and tiny particles cling to the bore, the feed ramp, the extractor, and the firing pin channel. They trap moisture, creating an environment for rust on metal surfaces. Small metal debris or sand sneaks into mating surfaces, increasing friction and causing localized wear. Excess oil mixed with grit becomes a sticky sludge that gums up moving parts. Springs such as the recoil spring and the magazine spring lose elasticity faster when coated in grime or rust. The extractor can be fouled or worn, so it won't grab cases reliably. The firing pin channel can get clogged so the striker binds or gives light strikes. In short, the pistol loses reliability. Misfeeds, stovepipes, failures to extract or eject, light strikes, and in severe cases the barrel can pit or suffer rifling damage, which ruins accuracy. Why do people let guns get dirty? It's usually a mix of habit, misunderstanding, and circumstances. First, the runs dirty myth. Someone told them Glocks run dirty, so they justify skipping cleanings. Second, busy and lazy. After a hard range session, people toss the gun in their bag and go home without cleaning. Third, no routine. They don't have a checklist or habit to maintain after each outing. Fourth, lack of knowledge. They don't know which spots collect carbon or how often to clean. Fifth, environment. Storing a pistol in a damp place or near salt air without desiccant speeds corrosion. Sixth, wrong lubrication habits. Skipping the cleaning step and just dumping oil on a dirty gun, thinking more oil equals less rust, actually attracts dirt and makes sludge. Real situations show the risk. A hunter leaves his firearm in the trunk after a wet day in the woods thinking, "I'll clean it later." Temperature swings in the trunk trap moisture, and a few months later, light surface rust shows up in the bore and inside the slide. When he needs it next season, the gun sounds wrong and accuracy has dropped and the extractor is sticking. A range shooter uses lots of cheap steel case ammo and delays cleaning for weeks. Carbon builds up in the chamber and feed ramp, producing frequent failures to extract and repeated stovepipes during competition. An owner stores a carry pistol in a daily box without silica gel. Months of humidity leave faint corrosion that reduces service life and reliability. Long-term consequences. Aside from immediate malfunctions, leaving a gun dirty alters the design tolerances. Feed ramps wear unevenly, extractors lose their hooks, contact surfaces show abnormal wear, and the bore's rifling can degrade. Restoring these things is hard and expensive. Sometimes parts or even the frame must be replaced. Prevention and practical fixes. A handy checklist. 1. Clean after every range trip. At minimum, unload, inspect the chamber. Run bore solvent and patches until the patches come out clean. Wipe slide and frame, and clean your magazines. This only takes 10 to 20 minutes, but it's very effective. 2. Build a routine. Make cleaning part of your post-range checklist and keep cleaning kits visible so you actually do it. 3. Clean firing pin channels and extractors. Use a small brush to remove carbon from these tight passages. Don't let buildup accumulate. 4. Don't store guns wet. If a pistol gets wet, dry it promptly. Disassemble as needed, towel it off, and let it air dry in a ventilated space. For salty or coastal environments, rinse with fresh water. Dry thoroughly and lightly oil. 5. Use silica gel in storage. Keep desiccant packs in your safe or storage box to control humidity. 6. Don't keep magazines loaded all the time. Rotate magazines. Storing them topped off for months reduces spring life. 7. Schedule periodic deep cleans. Every few months, or after 500 to 1,000 rounds. Perform a thorough disassembly and clean, check springs, and inspect for wear. 8. If you shoot steel case ammo or in very dusty conditions, clean more often. Carbon and grit accumulate faster in those circumstances. 9. Function check after cleaning, cycle the slide, dry fire safely with snap caps, and test eject /feeding before trusting the gun in the field. 10. If you find rust or significant corrosion, stop using the pistol and take it to a gunsmith. Don't try to aggressively scrub rust off and risk changing tolerances. Practical tips from experience. Keep a basic cleaning kit in your range bag. A few patches, a small bottle of bore solvent, a light oil, and a microfiber cloth. If you notice heavy carbon mid-session, you can quickly patch the bore and keep going. Use lubricants correctly. Clean off carbon first, then apply a thin film of oil to rails, barrel hood, and locking surfaces. Excess oil will draw grime. Log round counts. Knowing how many rounds since the last deep clean helps you set a cleaning schedule. Conclusion: letting a gun get dirty isn't a test of toughness. It's a shortcut to less reliability, shorter service life, and possible safety issues. A few minutes of disciplined cleaning after each use and proper storage will keep a pistol running better, longer, and safer. A little maintenance buys a lot of peace of mind. Mistake number 11. Over-lubricating or under-lubricating. Oil isn't magic. But it's not the enemy either. Getting lubrication right is more of an art than a strict science. And because of that, lots of people mess it up. I usually see two extremes. One group thinks oil is bad and leaves their pistols bone dry, then complains when slides drag and extractors wear out. The other group believes the more oil, the better, and soaks their pistols until oil drips out, which mixes with carbon and turns into sticky sludge. Both extremes kill reliability, speed up wear, and sometimes even create dangerous malfunctions. Here's what's really going on. The moving parts on a pistol, the rails, barrel hood, locking surfaces, feed ramp, and certain contact points, need a thin layer of lubricant to cut down friction and carry carbon away. Without enough oil, metal grinds on metal, causing concentrated wear. Extractors lose edges fast, slides start chewing into rails, and firing pin channels clog with carbon. On the flip side, with too much oil, that liquid mixes with powder residue and dust, creating a thick paste that gums up the action. Sludge can clog magazines, slow the striker, or even keep the firing pin from hitting primers properly. Excess oil can also coat cartridges, reducing friction needed for reliable feeding, and it splashes out onto clothes, gear, or skin when you carry the gun. Why do shooters go wrong? Some common reasons. Lack of knowledge. They don't know which spots actually need oil or how much is enough. Safety mindset gone wrong. Afraid of jams, they drown the gun in oil just in case. Laziness. Dumping oil everywhere feels quicker than wiping and applying carefully. Wrong products, using motor oil, WD-40, or silicone sprays that aren't designed for firearms, which trap dirt worse. Misjudging environments. Dusty ranges make heavy oil a nightmare, while dry climates punish under-oiling. Examples show this mistake clearly. I recall a shooter in an IDPA match who kept having light strikes and feed issues. A quick inspection revealed the slide and chamber covered in thick, dark oil sludge. Once he cleaned and applied just a thin coat at the right points, the pistol ran flawlessly. On the other end, I've seen owners leave pistols bone dry, thinking oil attracts dust, only to have slides seize slightly, and extractors wear down far faster than normal. One friend stored his pistol with almost no lubrication, and after a few hundred rounds, the rails showed bare metal scarring, an expensive repair that could have been avoided with 2 drops of oil. So, how do you do it right? A few practical rules. 1. Identify the right points: rails, barrel hood, locking lugs, and slide contact areas. That's where friction happens. 2. Apply a thin film, not puddles. A few drops spread with a cloth or finger is plenty. The metal should look shiny, not wet. 3. Avoid soaking the internals. Never flood the firing pin channel or magazines with oil. They should stay mostly dry. 4. Choose proper gun oil or grease. Firearm-specific lubricants are made for heat and carbon, unlike motor oils or sprays. 5. Adapt to environment. In sandy or dusty conditions, go lighter with lubrication. In wet or humid places, add a protective thin coat to prevent rust. 6. Wipe off excess. If oil is dripping, it's too much. Wipe it down until only a film remains. In short, lubrication isn't about as much as possible, or none at all. It's about just enough, in the right spots. A thin, deliberate layer keeps a pistol running smooth, cuts wear, and maintains reliability. Too much or too little, and you'll pay in jams, repairs, and maybe even safety. Treat oil as a precision tool, not a magic fix or a forbidden fluid, and your gun will reward you with years of dependable service. Mistake number 12, not practicing enough with your carry gun, relying too much on the idea that it's just for self-defense. Many people buy a pistol for concealed carry or home defense and then never really practice with it. They assume that just owning a gun or carrying it regularly is enough, and that in an emergency, they will somehow be able to draw and shoot accurately without much training. The problem is, your carry gun is only as effective as your ability to use it. And if you're not practicing consistently, you're setting yourself up for failure when it matters most. The truth is, just having a gun doesn't guarantee success in a real defensive situation. Drawing quickly, getting on target, and placing accurate shots all take practice. If you're carrying a gun every day and you haven't practiced drawing and firing, you're far more likely to hesitate, make slow or inaccurate shots, or even fumble during a high-stress situation. Being comfortable with your firearm, knowing how it feels in your hand, how it responds to recoil, and how to manage it under pressure all come from regular practice. Why do people make this mistake? Here are a few reasons. 1. Complacency. Some people feel that just having a gun makes them safe, so they don't feel the need to train or practice. 2. Time or convenience. Going to the range or taking training courses takes time, and many carry gun owners are busy or find it hard to fit training into their schedules. 3. Cost. Ammunition costs, range fees, and training expenses can discourage some from practicing regularly. 4. Overconfidence. Some shooters think they're naturally skilled or that they'll figure it out in the moment. They assume a self-defense situation will be simple or that they'll be calm enough to react correctly. Real-life examples are all too common. I've seen experienced shooters struggle with the basics in a high-stress defensive drill simply because they hadn't practiced under realistic conditions. One example was a concealed carrier who had never practiced drawing from his holster. During a defensive training course, he fumbled his draw and missed a critical opportunity to engage the target. Another case was a seasoned shooter who carried a small, compact pistol but hadn't practiced with it enough. When put to the test in a rapid-fire scenario, his accuracy dropped drastically, and his grip was shaky because he hadn't become accustomed to the smaller frame. Both of these situations show that without practice, even experienced gun owners can face significant challenges under stress. So, how do you avoid this mistake? Here's what you should do. 1. Dry fire practice. You don't need live ammo to practice. Set aside time each week to dry fire your carry gun at home. Focus on drawing, getting on target, and executing the shot. Dry fire practice builds muscle memory without spending money on ammo. 2. Regular range trips. At least once a month, ideally more often, go to the range and practice live fire drills. Focus on accuracy, speed, and multiple target engagements. Incorporate defensive drills that simulate real-life scenarios, such as drawing from a holster and shooting on the move. 3. Training courses. Take defensive shooting courses that focus on self-defense scenarios, conceal carry training, and decision-making. These will expose you to more realistic situations and help you build skills beyond just punching holes in paper. 4. Simulation training. Use training tools like laser training systems or tactical shooting simulators to improve decision-making and reaction time. 5. Practice under stress. Training in a low-pressure environment isn't enough. You need to practice under conditions that mimic real stress. Consider adding physical exercises or time constraints to your training to simulate adrenaline and the pressure of a real encounter. In short, carrying a gun is just the first step. You have to make sure you're proficient in its use. If you don't train regularly, you're not ready for the real world, and you may end up making critical mistakes when your life is on the line. Regular practice will help you build confidence, ensure accuracy, and give you the muscle memory you need to react swiftly and effectively. Don't let overconfidence or complacency put you at a disadvantage in a critical moment. Mistake number 13. Using the wrong ammunition or unregulated reloads. A mistake that can destroy your weapon in an instant. Ammunition is crucial in every shooting activity. And when you fail to choose the correct type of ammo or use unregulated reloads, you're putting both yourself and your weapon in a dangerously risky situation. Incorrectly sized ammunition, poor quality reloads, or ammo with unstable pressures can lead to serious issues like failure to fire, failure to eject, or even a barrel rupture. And these mistakes can not only damage your gun, but also create an immediate danger. The breakdown comes from uneven pressure in the ammunition. When you fire the wrong caliber, for example, mixing up 9mm and 380 auto, the pressure generated will not match the design of the weapon. This can cause the bullet to move incorrectly in the barrel, overloading parts like the extractor, ejector, or recoil spring. Additionally, when firing unregulated reloads, you cannot ensure the correct amount of gunpowder in each round. If there's too little powder, the bullet won't have enough force to eject the casing, creating a squib load, a bullet stuck in the barrel. If there's too much powder, sudden pressure spikes can cause the barrel to rupture, damaging the barrel and creating dangerous fragments. Why do people still make this mistake? There are a few common reasons. Cost saving. Reloaded ammo is cheaper, and some people think saving money is fine as long as they don't check the quality of each round. Lack of knowledge about reloads. Many people don't have experience loading ammunition correctly and don't check the powder charge carefully, resulting in poor quality ammo. Overconfidence in the firearm. Some people think their gun can handle a variety of ammo without being cautious about the type they use. Buying ammo from unreliable sources, cheap or unknown brand ammo might look like legitimate rounds, but are often of very poor quality. Real-world examples. A shooter used unregulated reloads from a friend who did the reloading himself. During a competition, he heard a weak pop instead of a loud bang when firing the first round. Instead of stopping, he continued shooting, and a second round got stuck in the barrel. The result was a ruptured barrel when the next round was fired into it, causing costly repairs. A hunter used cheap ammo from an unknown brand without checking the quality. During a hunting trip, his gun kept failing to eject because the ammo didn't have enough pressure, causing him to miss the opportunity to hunt. A competitor in a match used reloads from an unclear source, and when he fired, the round lacked gunpowder. The bullet only traveled partway down the barrel, forcing him to stop and check, wasting time and disqualifying him from the competition. The consequences of using the wrong ammo or unregulated reloads are very serious. Not only can it damage the gun, but it can also cause injury to the shooter and those around them if the pressure is unstable or the barrel ruptures. Poor quality ammo also reduces accuracy, makes gun maintenance difficult, and erodes your trust in your firearm. How to fix this? 1. Only use factory ammunition. Ensure you are using high-quality ammo from reputable manufacturers, appropriate for the caliber listed on your firearm. Don't buy cheap ammo from unreliable sources or off-brand, low-quality rounds. 2. Check reloads. If you use reloads, make sure you know the person reloading the ammo and that the process is strictly controlled. Ensure each round has the correct amount of powder, neither too little nor too much. 3. Check ammo pressure. If possible, check the pressure of reloads before firing using specialized tools. 4. Don't use unverified ammo. Avoid buying ammo from sources with no quality certification or a bad reputation on the market, especially when shooting in important situations or for self-defense. 5. Never shoot when there's something off. If you hear a weak sound or feel unusual recoil, stop immediately and inspect the chamber to make sure there's no bullet stuck inside. 6. Use the right ammo for each purpose. Make sure the ammo you choose matches your gun and its intended use. For example, using lead ammo for practice and copper-jacketed for self-defense. Conclusion. Ammunition is the most critical factor determining the safety and performance of your firearm. So never overlook the quality of the ammo you use. Don't let cheap or incompatible rounds ruin your weapon, or worse, cause a serious incident. Choose high-quality ammo, check its source, and always follow safety principles when using it. Doing so will not only help protect you, but also ensure your gun operates reliably and consistently. In conclusion, avoiding these rookie mistakes can make all the difference between a reliable firearm and a liability. Whether it's maintaining your pistol with proper care, practicing consistently, or understanding the mechanics and limitations of your gear, staying aware of these common errors is key to keeping both your firearm and yourself in top condition. A little knowledge, preparation, and attention to detail go a long way, not just for your gun's performance, but for your safety as well. Remember, firearms aren't just tools, they're life-saving devices. Take the time to learn how to use, maintain, and handle them responsibly. Keep practicing, stay sharp, and always prioritize safety. With the right approach, your pistol will serve you well for years to come.